Hello and welcome to Gendering Geopolitics, my short series where I have quick 10-minute conversations with women around the world. My name is Emily Prey, and I'm the director of the Gender Policy Portfolio and of the Mass Atrocities and International Law Portfolio at the New Lines Institute. Today, I'm speaking with Aras Yussef, a researcher at the Kurdish Peace Institute, about the ceasefire in northeast Syria and the integration of the Syrian Democratic Forces into the government military forces. Thank you so much for joining me, Aras.
Thank you for hosting me.
As a Kurdish woman living in northeast Syria in Rojava, what do you think about the SDF integration deal?
I think this agreement is a rescuer for the Kurdish people at this critical time. It came after successive of events that targeted the Kurds population in Syria since the early of January, since the beginning of this new year, starting from Aleppo in Sheikh Massoud and Ashrafiyah, and then it was followed by the events in Der Hafer, followed by the withdrawal from Raqqa and Deir ez-Zor, the SDF, Syrian Democratic Forces withdrawal from Raqqa and Deir ez-Zor. The withdrawal accompanied by many violations against the Kurds in those regions, Raqqa and Deir ez-Zor. Many Kurds were killed by the Arab tribes and by the interim government forces. And they reached to the border, let's say, or the edge of the Kurdish region, Hasake and Qamishli, and also clashes and engagements happened between the government forces and the SDF fighters. So this agreement, I see it as a rescue for the Kurdish people who remained or were besieged in the remaining Kurdish areas like Kobani, Hasake, Qamishli, Deir Gamda, and the rest. Um, I don't want to praise this agreement, but I'm saying that based on the facts on the ground and the incidents we witnessed and the testimonies we heard from the refugees who came here and our friends and families in Aleppo. That's it. So this is my idea of the agreement, or my opinion, a rescuer for the remaining Kurdish population.
That makes a lot of sense. How have women been meaningfully represented in the ceasefire negotiations and further integration talks, if at all? And why is women's participation so important to peace negotiations? I know that you work a lot on this issue in your work at the Kurdish Peace Institute as well.
In general, the Kurdish women were always involved in the Kurdish struggle, Kurdish war, Kurdish political parties, Kurdish administration. Here in Rojava or northeast Syria, the women are well represented, whether in leadership or institutions. Since the beginning of negotiations between the SDF and the government, we saw many senior women leaders participate and were involved in the negotiations. Personally, I think the woman's presence in these negotiations is because the woman's mentality and way of thinking is always toward the peaceful, practical, political solutions and resolutions. Women always seek balancing between humanity and interests, benefits, and less harm and damages on the ground. This is my personal point of view, but in the case of the Kurdish cause in Rojava, is because there must be a woman representation in any negotiation, any administration, or in any governing system, and also to break the monopolization of male dominance in this field.
I think any kind of peace negotiation and talks, if women are not included, then you're ignoring the viewpoints and opinions of half of the population. So It's incredibly important,
Exactly.
and the Kurds have been doing a very good job of that. How are how is everyone in northeast Syria feeling about the fighting, about the ceasefire, the deal, and their future with al Shara's interim government?
Um, the future with the Shara interim government, let's say the Kurds have lost their trust. They didn't have that much trust in such government, Al-Qaeda related government, Islamist radical government, but they had some hope maybe that they might have changed, or they might following specific changes after being the so-called interim government in Syria. But as normal Kurdish people, they have no trust, and they lost the remaining little trust if they had after the events um, in Aleppo, in Sheikh Mahsoud and Ashrafiyeh, and then later in their Hafir, and then later the until the last days before the announcement of agreement. But currently, they are relieved with the announcement of the agreement, because that means no wide scale war will happen. Uh, no large scale massacres against the Kurds or any other components will occur. So they are very relieved about the ceasefire point. Um, but the Kurdish people in general, they see this agreement less what they expected uh, to what they wanted as Kurdish people. For example, they wanted their rights, or they wanted changes on the level of constitution, not only a decrease or a quick mention in the agreement. Maybe yes, not maybe, it's they see it less what they sacrificed for, and they gave martyrs to for this cause. But they are extremely relieved about the ceasefire point, and the agreement was practically started, or were implemented since yesterday. Yesterday was the first day of implementing the agreement. So we can say it has started, and the people in general are relieved about the ceasefire more. But other than the ceasefire point, they still doubt, and there is a huge part of the Kurdish people that refuse it.
That makes a lot of sense. And you
Yes,
mentioned in the, oh, sorry, go ahead.
particularly because there were previously many agreements, the March 10th agreement and the April 1st agreements regarding Sheikh Mahsoud and Ashrafiyeh's neighborhoods in Aleppo. There was an agreement, but see what happened to those two Kurdish neighborhoods over there. That's why they lost any trust.
And trust is so important when you're building a government that is meant to represent all the people of a country. You briefly mentioned al Shara's past ideologies. It's incredibly different from the Kurdish way of life in governing in Rojava, which is based off of genealogy, the philosophy that a country cannot be free until the women are free. Will this way of life and governance be able to continue under this new government? What is the future for the Kurds and other ethnic groups living in northeast Syria?
I think yes, this way of life will be able to continue, but in the Kurdish controlled remaining areas, like Kobani, Qamishli, Hasake, the normal life, everyday life will stay the same. Women will still enjoy the benefits or the freedom they have been enjoying since the first day of the Kurdish or SDF control. because even the entry of the government forces will be specific numbers and limited for limited time in those region. So this type of life will not be affected or changed, but it was changed in Aleppo and those two Kurdish neighborhoods, Ashafish and Maqsoud. Women were also free to go out at night or to go out by themselves. I'm speaking within those two Kurdish neighborhoods, but for now, they are under the control of this government, and they tell me that we don't feel safe. I tell them, "Is does anything happen to you, or did you face any kind of violation or whatsoever?" They say, "Until now, no, but it doesn't necessarily to happen to say that I don't feel safe, because they already know this government and their forces history." And so in the remaining Kurdish region, cities and villages, nothing will change. But in Aleppo or in the Kurdish neighborhoods, it has changed. And the future of the Kurds and minorities in the region remained under SDF control is depending on the seriousness of the implementation of this agreement and the durability of this agreement in the long term, specifically regarding the ceasefire adherence.
Thank you so much, Aras, for joining me on Gendering Geopolitics, all the way from Syria, from Rojava. Thank you for your time and your expertise. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Thank you too.